Hello everybody! You are joining me at the end of the first week of September at the time that I'm recording this. As always, I'm really excited to come back and talk to you about some knitting and what I've been making and to touch base with all of you. Thank you so much for everyone who's been reaching out since my last episode, which was my first one back after a little bit of a hiatus. If you are new to the podcast, welcome. Thank you so much for checking out this space. This is just a space where I connect with you about what I'm knitting on, what I'm thinking about in the world of knitting, some challenges I might be having in my knitting and my creativity, and things that I would come out to all of you for thoughts, suggestions on. It's all about the creativity. It's not just knitting. Sometimes there's a bit of crochet, sometimes there's a bit of sewing. More on that later. If you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back and sticking by me post hiatus from podcasting. If you did not see my most recent video, that was kind of a summary of everything I've been up to in the meantime, whilst I haven't been online so much. And if people are interested, as I kind of get back into a rhythm and a schedule with these episodes, I will be updating everybody in a far more kind of live manner over on Instagram. So do go and check that out if you're interested in more regular updates. So this podcast is coming, I think 3 weeks by the time this is up. It'll be 3 weeks since my last one. I'm going to be aiming for every fortnight as the kind of regular schedule. Let's just see, some might be a bit more regular than that. Sometimes it might be 3 weeks. I absolutely refuse to let it go a month between podcasts, but if you click the notification button below, then you will get told immediately when a video comes up. It will come up if it's going to come up on a Friday afternoon at around 3 o'clock. So there we go. I hope that is a rather rambly but hopefully informative intro. And now let's get going with knitting content. To set a little bit of a scene on the knitting content for this week. So as you can see, I have a lamp on, but daylight. It is beginning to get that kind of autumnal vibe, or fall vibe if you are US based, here in the UK. We had the most amazing summer for what felt like months and months on end, the best summer I can remember in a really long time in terms of weather, and now we are really beginning to hit into autumn. There's still the odd day that catches me out and it's a little bit warmer than I expected, but overall we're really beginning to sink into autumn. And I'm doing that classic thing. There's probably far more organised knitters out there who are way ahead of me, but I'm doing that classic thing where I now know exactly what I want to be wearing, but I want to be wearing it now. And you can't knit that quickly. So we have been kind of full on thinking about, like, knitting on and thinking about the things I want to wear. So if you did watch my last episode with kind of everything I've been knitting on and working on, you will have seen so many whips that just have not been touched ahead of this week's episode. So I'll focus on what I have been working on. I've got a few finished objects to show you. I've got some works in progress. It's not going to be all my whips because there are so many of them right now, but we are slowly plugging through some of them and we are beginning to finish off some projects that have been on my mind for a really, really long time. I've got with me a hot vitamin C tablet, just trying to make sure I kind of keep my immune system good and strong as the weather kind of takes a bit of a turn and everyone's got that back to school vibe and you know what it's like. I hope you've got something nice to drink. I hope this is in a kind of good spot for you for a bit of quiet time, a bit of time to yourself, and yeah, really enjoying sharing my knitting with you and spending my bits of quiet time with you. So good. Right, finished objects. Apologies if you can hear a slidey sound. So if you were watching my last episode, you will have seen the following. This is actually technically a half finished object, but in terms of the actual order I've knit things in, this is the first one we're going to talk about. This is just a kind of vanilla sock. It is striped. I'm hoping my lighting setup's going to be, yeah, that's pretty good, pretty true to colour. This is just a basic vanilla sock. I am a UK women's size 5, so I don't tend to use up tons of yarn. The reason I'm kind of bringing that up is I've made this from the first month of my summer mini sock duet mini skein pairings that are up on my website. The idea behind these was I was just thinking, you know, we often have a couple of mini skeins around and we're trying to pair them with something or we're trying to do something with them, and often they go into scrappy projects, but actually I think so often socks can be such a good way to pair them together. So to kind of give some inspiration and a starting point to get used to using kind of pairs of mini skeins, I thought it'd be really fun to do 2 minis each month of summer that are inspired by kind of what I'm seeing around me. In full confession, the August one has not gone up yet, so that's gonna be a bonus September one. But I, have dyed up, there's only a small number of each set, but it was just a bit of fun over the summer, getting me back into dyeing, and hopefully kind of like a nice treat for you. Obviously, if you want to use them in scrappy projects, you absolutely could, and maybe you just need an extra 2 to finish off your project, and there you go. But if you do want to join me in kind of making them into socks, then this is my first one. I need to make the second one. I am pretty bad with second sock syndrome. And as these were striped, you can see on the inside here, you've got a little bit of a seam where I've been alternating 3 colourways. So what I did was I took these mini skeins, I believe are 25-gram minis, but I will double check that and correct myself on screen if I need to. I took 2 of the minis, 2 25-gram minis, and then I had a 25-gram little mini that was undyed, but you could use any sock yarn that you have in your stash. And then I've striped them, and I've chosen to do 3 rows or rounds of one colour, a single round of the contrast colour that's going the whole way through, the white, then 3 rounds of the other mini, and then repeat. I think I did my heel, I did my heel as I was knitting, it wasn't afterthought. And then I've just done my favourite round toe construction. And yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that really. I'm beginning to get to a point with my socks where I've got a bit more of a recipe going. I've also got a bit more of a hand knit sock collection, which is lovely. I'm really looking forward to that this autumn, winter. And really happy with how this sock base is holding up. I had good confidence in it because I know other dyers use it and love it. It's got quite a lovely sheen to it when you dye it up, which I just think looks really polished on socks. So yeah, generally couldn't be happier. But I think when I recorded my whip episode, it was kind of somewhere around like here. I think I'd done maybe like the cuff, and then I've just ploughed through the heel and foot and toe. Half finished object. I'm gonna have another sip of my drink. Sorry, my throat's feeling a bit dry. Oh, that's better. Okay, my next finished object is a bit of a cheat one, if I'm honest, because I'm going to class it as a finished object because it took me ages to get myself to re-pick up the project, but I technically shown it as a finished object before on the podcast. So what am I talking about? So I last year created a hat pattern, which I actually have not released yet. It's a cabled hat pattern in a kind of anywhere from kind of a heavy DK to worsted weight yarn. This is my second version. I knit this up in some yarn I picked up from Japan. It's the brand's called Sonomono. I can't quite get like what the base name is, but it's a chainette construction yarn, which I thought was really, really interesting. It's beautifully soft in this kind of lovely chestnutty colour. And then as you can see as I'm holding it up, the bottom looks a bit funny like this. And the reason is I've unfolded it, but you can see this line. Before, the hat did not have this extended brim. It was just a few rows of rib, 2x2 actually. And that worked fine on the first one I did, and I really liked it. On this version, the yarn has got less natural structure to it than the first sample I knit. And because of that, it was just not sitting on the head quite right. So I have picked up the cast on edge, as you can see. I've made an extended brim. I've then cast it off on the inside, so to speak, so that you can then turn this up. The idea is you turn it up a little bit below where the original brim line was. She says, super pro podcaster here, trying to turn it the right way around on camera. So you can't see that pickup row. That's like hidden on the inside. But it's just given the hat that extra bit of length and that extra bit of sturdiness around the brim. And I think that's now going to be perfect for this autumn winter. I haven't decided yet whether this is going to stay in my hand knit collection or whether it's going to be gifted. I am on a real gift knitting roll, and yeah, that's exciting actually. It's the first time in a while I've wanted to gift knit, so feeling good. So that is a kind of cheat finish object. My final couple of finished objects are more legitimate, I promise. So, again, a project that's been on my mind for so long. I knit this hat, gosh, four years ago, something like that. I don't know how well you can see it. It's almost like a kind of double moss stitch colour work, if that makes any sense. There's no texture, it's all stockinette, but the colour work pattern's almost like double moss stitch. I knit this up in a base from Knitting for Olive that they no longer make, and I'm so sad because this was one of my first projects where I tried English throwing style with one hand and continental with the other to do colour work, and it's the only yarn needle combination that I have ever managed to do that double-handed style of colourwork knitting and for my tension to be flat. I've never managed it again with any other needle and yarn combo. So I love this yarn. It was such an enjoyable project, and the hat just fits perfectly, and I just doodled it, as my phrase is when it comes. I'm not going to say I drafted it because I didn't do any calculations. I just cast on a number and then had a look at it once I'd done the ribbing and tried to figure out whether I liked it or not. So I knit this ages ago. My husband absolutely loves the fit of this hat. Other people that have seen me wearing it love the fit of this hat. I just throw it on. The yarn has held up beautifully. This is a chainette and blown construction, so it's got a chainette cotton core with then a really soft, I think, merino wool blown into it. It's kind of about a DK to worsted weight, depending how you knit it. I've knit this hat on 4.5mm needles. Actually, I should have said this hat's also on 4.5mm needles, and this is 2.5mm, which is my preferred sock stitch density. I've got quite a tight knitting gauge, or rather, I'm a tight knitter, therefore I tend to get a tighter gauge than others on the same needles. 2.5, 4.5, 4.5. So, this obviously I knit a while ago, so why am I talking about this as a finished object? Well, so I knit this hat and then I knit a second hat out of the leftovers from this hat. Does that make any sense? So I ended up getting 2 hats out of 2 balls of this double soft merino. And I also bought 2 other balls in 2 different blues. And it was always my plan to knit another set of hats in those. And for some reason I just never did it. I think one of the balls I cast on and tried to make like a cowl with it, and it just didn't go right, so I had to frog it, and frogging this is not the easiest, but I did it. And then the other day I was going through my stash and I was resorting it, and I keep condensing it down, not by getting rid of stuff, but by enjoying my stash and using my stash in a way that is authentic and genuinely enjoyable rather than trying to stash down. However, I've been using it, enjoying it, reducing it down, and got to a point where I could reorganise it into fewer boxes. I digress and I tangent, but I hope other people can sympathise with that process. And in so doing, I came across the yarn, is the really long story short, and I have now knit a second hat to match this one. Now, I realised partway through that I've definitely done a different crown construction, which is what is causing the difference in height. I don't think that's a huge issue. It does make the top of this one a little bit pointier, whereas this one has got like a quite nice flat domed top. I think on this one I decreased every row, and on this one I've decreased every other row, but the rest of the hat is the same but just in a different colour. So as you can see, I have got that kind of double moss stitch colour work. The brim is twisted rib, and yeah, I'm really happy with it. It's a tiny bit pointier at the top than I wanted it to be, but this one I think I will add a pom-pom onto the top of it, and I think that will make that work just fine. I then still have, and I'm kind of looking at it, and unfortunately it's like just out of arm's reach. Should I get it? Should I not? Yeah. I have still got yarn left over. Now, this doesn't look like enough to make a whole other hat, but I think if I'm using the light blue as the contrast, so I almost like do the reverse of this hat, have the light blue as the contrast, the dark blue as the main, I think I might get another hat out of it. I definitely managed to do that with the pinks. So yeah, I think I might knit one pretty much exactly the same because I really, really enjoyed this. And then, as I say, I think these will kind of go into gifting. I want to gift one, and then I'd really like to keep one for my husband so that we've got a pink and a blue one, which I know is very stereotypical gender norms, but I just really like the tonality, and he can wear the pink one if he likes and I'll wear the blue one. I don't mind, but I just really love the combo. So that's a really nice finished object, and hopefully in the next one I will have another hat made out of the leftovers. And then, you know, this just feels really perfect because you can't get this yarn anymore, so it just feels really lovely to be making a pattern and a hat that I've really enjoyed for ages, making more versions of it, gifting that so that it's some of my favourite yarn in a really nice pattern. Yeah, it's just like, and it's drafted by me and it's not out there, so it's kind of like all the one-offs, if that makes any sense. But yeah, I don't know if you can see the yarn a little bit better here. Please excuse, my nails and my hands are in an absolutely horrendous state following lots of DIY recently on the cottage. So yeah, please excuse my nails, which look awful. So those are most of my finished objects. I have one more. The ends are not woven in, so please do accept my apologies, but priorities. So this last finished object, I'm gonna really mess up the name. I've been practicing it and trying, but I'm probably not gonna get it right. But mid-August, Sharon, who is Contour Knit on Instagram, who is a Dublin-based designer, she has been posting for a while some really gorgeous pictures. Her photography on Instagram is just, it's incredible. I don't know whether she does it with timers, I don't know if she has someone that does them for her professionally, or if her other half, I think her husband now, is really good, or whether she has a friend, I have no idea. But her photography is beautiful, and she always gets the lighting just absolutely perfect and the kind of shadows. Anyway, fangirling here. But Sharon designs pieces of knitwear, garments and accessories that are inspired by nature and her surroundings in Ireland, and I've test knit a couple of things for her actually. I test knit her Achill jumper, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, which was a lovely drop shoulder construction with cables up the sides, and I must have test knit that in 2023-ish, I think. 2023, I think, going into 2024. And then I also test knit her Strand Hill slipover, and I've absolutely loved both. She's really good with creating kind of textures and using kind of interesting construction techniques, so yeah, done a couple of test knits for her. She started posting these snippets of what looked like a kind of shawl or a scarf design, and when she then said she needed testers, I just had to jump on it. I started testing without even knowing what the kind of finished item looked like. That's how much trust I have in her design process. And the test knit started a couple of weeks ago, and it's pretty quick test knit, but the item's really quick and enjoyable to knit too. This is the one I haven't woven my ends in on. Now, I'm gonna have a go at pronouncing the name of the pattern, but Sharon, if you're watching this, I doubt you are, but if you are, I really apologise. If there's anyone else who has an Irish background, I'm really sorry if I'm butchering this. The name of the pattern is spelled Loinnir, but I think it's pronounced Lanier. It's an Irish or a kind of Irish origin word that means like sunlight on water. It's kind of like brightness and light and that kind of reflectivity. I love it because it's one of those words that represents a whole feeling, a whole moment, just in one word, which I just think is beautiful. So without further ado, let me show you the pattern. As I say, ends not woven in, but from here on camera this looks just like a triangle with nothing else, but if I hold it up closer, you can see it's got these gorgeous knots. And the really lovely thing is they look just as gorgeous in reverse, I think. I don't know if it's gonna... So yeah, gorgeous little scarf. My test knit version has come out, I think, about 10 centimetres narrower widthways than hers has, and just 2 centimetres deeper. That's just my gauge being off. Sharon was very open to people just kind of casting on and seeing where they got to and not being too fussed about measuring gauge, because this little scarf can be knit up within a 50-gram ball of yarn. And so I think like with a swatch you'd end up kind of playing yarn chicken a little bit. So she was very happy for us just to cast on and see where we got to. I've cast this on in a 50-gram skein of my natural 4-ply base in a one-off colourway. I dyed up some yarn for my friend's mum over the summer to knit a cardigan for a little one in the family, and there was a skein that I just wasn't 100% happy with from the batch, so I kept it and I've knitted it. Now on camera this is just coming up as like a kind of pale pinky cream colour. In person there's like these ever so subtle shades of almost like a kind of lilac-y grey coming through it, and some sandy tones, and then some peachy pink tones. There's kind of a bit of all sorts. Sorry that you're also getting the kind of crease lines from where it's been folded up. But yes, this was a super quick, super enjoyable knit, quite addictive. I just kept wanting to pick it up because it's done in these really clever sections. So you're constantly only kind of a set number of rows away from the next step. So really potato chippy in that sense. It's got the most gorgeous border. There you go, which sits beautifully flat. I think quite a lot of us as testers have been playing around a little bit with the top border. I must say I've gone quite far off pattern with mine, so I'm going to knit another version and I'm going to follow the pattern exactly and see what I think. That's absolutely no reflection on Sharon, but as one of my lovely viewers messaged me the week after my first episode came up, a lovely viewer messaged saying, "You just always make me laugh with how often you talk about modifying things," and it's true. It's not that I think I know any better than the designer or that I think they've done anything wrong. It's that I get so much joy taking like a base from somebody, like a baseline, and then my brain just starts like thinking about like other ways of doing it and like what would it look like if you did this, and it's almost like my brain playing around with, yeah, like I don't know, that's just what gets my like creative headspace going. So it's a me thing, it's not a designer thing. So yeah, but that is an FO. So a decent number of things kind of finished and sorted. This is actually something that I am probably going to gift to a friend's family. Bit of a long story. I'm taking a trip soon, and my friend's family are very kindly putting us up as part of that trip, so I wanted to kind of knit some things for them. I'm putting myself under a bit of pressure because the trip's not far away, so I really need to get going, but that's probably going to be gifted. I need to take a lot of photos because obviously it would have been a great like sample, so maybe I will knit another one in another colour of my Highland. It's all Highland wool, it's my natural 4-ply base, but yeah, it's amazingly soft for a natural base. Or maybe I will keep this as my sample and then maybe I'll knit another one. I don't know. So, finished object. Gosh, I'm going to be rambly today, I can just feel it. It was meant to be a shorter episode. I've just realised, having just taken a sip of my drink, I've just realised I never said what I was wearing in this episode. So I am wearing my second version of the Gallant sweater by Kadri. This, I used the pattern for the mohair edition, but I have never knit it in mohair. Go figure. I absolutely love this jumper. This is probably one of the only like brightly coloured things in my wardrobe that I find actually goes with everything, which I think is quite a hard thing to find. I really love the fit of the jumper. It's got like a mock turtleneck, it's a raglan, the raglan's not too deep, the sleeves have got a really nice level of fit to them. I've made this one a bit longer than my last one. It sits kind of right just under my belly button. Weird thing to say on a podcast, but giving you a reference. I knit this in one strand of Isaya's Highland wool, yes, in the colourway Rhubarb. It's a 2-ply, I believe, yeah, 2-ply wool. I'd say it's pretty light as far as the fingering goes, quite rustic feeling, but I don't have any issue wearing it just over a camisole. I've actually worn this without a camisole underneath it before and been fine, so it's very like next to skin. I wouldn't say it's soft, it's like next to skin compatible. I don't find it itchy. If you like rub it up and down, then you can definitely feel some rustic, but it's comfortable. Because it's a 2-ply construction, it does have a bit of a tendency to pill. I wear this a lot, so it's not surprising, and it's actually probably not showing up on camera as bad as it is in person, but you can kind of maybe just about see there's lots of pills on it. I last depilled it probably about a year ago, so it needs another good bit of depilling because it's beginning to look a little bit scruffy in person. But I absolutely love this yarn. I love the tonality that Isaiah managed to get in this base. It's not just a solid colour, it's got all sorts, so this has got bits of kind of yellows and oranges in it, but it is nonetheless, like, kind of on camera and in person you would say it's overall like a kind of corally pinky colour, like a sunsetty pink colour. I believe the colourway is called Rhubarb, and yeah, it has to be one of my favourite sweaters that I've knit in terms of repeat wearability, so really love it. But yeah, I want to say I knit this on 4.5mm needles, but I would need to go back and check. It's probably in a previous episode somewhere. I don't keep my Ravelry up to date, I'm afraid. That would be one step of organisation too much for me at the moment. I'm looking at the stitches. I don't think I knit it on 5mm, which I think is what the pattern calls for. I don't think I knit it on 5mm. I think I knit it on 4.5 or 4. Yeah, there we go. Into whips. I've got a few, quite excited about some of these I'm going to show you. I'll show you one to begin with that links to my last finished object. It's definitely not my most progressed one, in all honesty. I cast it on yesterday. But I was really inspired by this pattern, and I really wanted to build on the creative ideas it was giving me. So the following I would still very much attribute as being originated in Sharon's pattern. And I will feed back to her the modifications I'm making for the second one in case that's of interest to her to include in the pattern, because the basis for it all is still her pattern. But I have cast on a second version, kind of the Lanier scarf. I've cast this on a slightly bigger needle. This I cast on 3.5mm needles. I've cast this one on 3.75. And as you can see, I'm only really at the start. The yarn I'm using is some leftovers I had from my summer sweater pattern that I released. The second sample that I knit in yarn from Loom Wool, the lovely Jess. I'm doing her a disservice by not having the colourway name with me, but this is this gorgeous grey purple colour. Purple's not normally in my wheelhouse, but this I think is really pretty, and the base is gorgeous. It's like an alpaca silk merino base, or maybe just alpaca silk. It's got a beautiful sheen, super soft, and what I'm doing is I'm essentially taking Sharon's pattern, but to try and get a version of this that's not so deep and has maybe got a bit more length, just to give different styling options, I am increasing at a different rate. I'm not gonna share the overshare the pattern, but I'm increasing at a different rate, and I'm including the knot stitch, but I'm just doing it up the edges along with the border. I don't know how you're going to see this. And I've slightly altered the knot just to go more with the aesthetic of the yarn and the other alterations I'm making. So yeah, so I've cast on another one. As I say, I very much would not credit this as like a new design for me because it's so heavily influenced. It's very much a spin-off of Sharon's design. But I'm really enjoying the second one. I really enjoy this knot stitch that she's found. It's really beautiful and really nice to work. Sometimes I find that these knot stitches look beautiful, but they're really disruptive to the flow of your knitting. This one's really, really nice to work. And yeah, I will just keep knitting until I've used up either, depending how wide, like what the wingspan is that I can get off half a ball. If I can get an adequate wingspan for someone to like properly loop it around their neck, then I'll just do half of this for one scarf and then I'll make another one. Or if I need the full ball, that's fine. Because I used this in that second sample, I think I've got about 73 grams. So we'll just see where we get to. But that's a really nice work in progress. As I say, relatively new on the needles. And that's also, this is going to be a really funny comment, but I don't know if anyone else is doing a bit of this for those non-monogamous knitters, aka like me with multi whips. I'm always playing a game of what can I cast on that's in my mind that I have needles free for, because I've noticed the minute I take a needle out of a project to use it on another project, the likelihood of me picking up the original project is very, very low. So I try and keep my needles in my projects as much as possible, and that means I'll actually finish them. So that was a spare needle, that's why I could cast that on yesterday, because other works in progress. So many of them. Sorry guys, I really feel like I'm rambling today. It's funny, as you're like chatting away, you can just tell some days you're not quite in the relaxed flow you're meant to be in. I think it's because I've been quite excited to record. I'm quite like bubbly and jittery. Okay, so on that topic of needles being free, in my last episode, for those who watched, you will have seen that I'm working on the book club cardigan by Sari Nordland. Hard to show on camera. There we go. I have been absolutely loving knitting on this, and I knit on this obsessively through August. So I, in the last episode, was at a point where I'd done, I think, about half of the button band. I've now completed the button band the whole way round. I've made this quite cropped. For the vast majority watching this who have never met me in person, and I obviously don't tend to stand up during my episodes, which maybe I should, or put some B-roll in another time. But I have quite a short shoulder to waist dimension, and then I've got quite an indented waist, and then I have larger hips, and I really find that I need to crop my jumpers quite a lot to make sure that I don't look like I'm the same width as my hips going all the way up, because for me personally that's just not very flattering on my personal figure. But then I'm always in this like limbo of like how much to crop, because I for a very long time was over cropping stuff, and then there was a gap between the top of my waistband and the jumper or cardigan, which is not the look I was going for. So I'm constantly in this like to and fro, like have I cropped it the right amount, have I not? This jumper I definitely think I got it right. It sits really well. So I'm really hoping this one I've cropped the right amount. I do think this will grow with some blocking. Obviously the cables at the moment are cinching it in, but as the fabric kind of relaxes. But yeah, I'm really, really loving this project. Again, I think this might be another 4.5mm project for me. Let me just grab my notebook so I'm not telling you any lies. Let's have a look. Yeah, 4.5mm. I'm knitting the third size. This is, sorry guys, I have got a diversity of yarn on this episode, I promise, but this does happen to be another one of my hand-dyed yarns. I knit up a single batch of this base because I wanted to try it out. And I wanted to try this colourway out. I really love it. I'm evidently in a bit of a pink zone at the moment. But really, really enjoyed knitting the body, and the button band was a little bit laborious, I'm going to be really honest. I do love the feeling of double knitting, but one, it's really fluffed up my yarn, because you are kind of working that same spot kind of over several times, and the needles I was using wasn't helping because the yarn was quite bunched up on quite small tips. But it's fluffed everything up a little bit, which is not ideal, and it's just a lot of button band to do double. I mean, it's the whole length. So yeah, this just needs sleeves, but the needle that I needed to do my sleeves, I was using that specific cable on another project. So I will talk more about this and show you kind of finish and etc. Hopefully next time when I've hopefully done both the sleeves, because I really want to wear this cardigan this autumn. I've also got a massive ends to weave in, which will be fun. But yeah, I'll generally speaking leave it there. I'll tell you about some modifications that I've made. There's not many, but I will do that next time. But that has been quite a big step to have got the button band done. That's like a big tick. What have those needles been on? Well, I have found a blouse, not knitting related, but it makes sense in a moment. I found a blouse that I absolutely love, that I've bought in a sale, and I just had this vision for what it would look like as part of an outfit, and that vision included a deep burgundy reddy coloured slipover. And then, being a knitter, I went, well, I can make that. Of course, I want to be wearing this now, which is hard because I haven't made the slipover yet. The blouse, just to give you a bit of a visual, a mental image, and I should have really just had it with me, but the blouse has got like a neutral, just like slightly off-white, kind of warm sandstone coloured background. It's got a very simple collar with a kind of set of closures down the front if you want, but you can kind of leave it open and you can't see those. They're hook and eye closures. So they're kind of covered and concealed. It's then got these, not quite butterfly sleeves, but it's got like a yoke of, the construction is quite complicated actually. So it's a normal constructed top with a shoulder seam here, but they've almost made like a yoke, a semi, like what would be in line with a round yoke, capped style sleeve, but with a kind of ruffled edge on both sides. The blouse has got, that was an absolutely terrible description, I hope you can get a mental image of it. And then the blouse has got flowers in autumnal shades of kind of reds and oranges with these gorgeous greens. Anyway, I just, in my mind, had this image of this like red berry coloured slipover with these little sleeves poking out the top. I just thought it would look absolutely stunning. So, for the knitted content part of this, finally, I have cast on the Friday slipover, I'm pretty sure that's the one, we'll correct myself on screen if I need to, by Petite Knit. Now, quite a few things to say on this, interestingly. So, I am knitting this on 4.5mm needles. As you can see, it is a broken rib fabric. And I was really hoping to have the ribbing on both armholes done before this episode, but I do not. This one's missing rib. This rib, we're going to do this a little bit out of order, but this rib looks a little bit ruffly, or like I've picked up too many stitches when you just like hang it like this, but I think when it's blocked and when it's on, I don't want the armhole cinching in. I want the armhole to sit really flat and on the longer side, and I think when you do that, it does sit flat. So yeah, I picked up more stitches at the armhole than the pattern prescribes, but I did go down a needle size for my ribbing, which I tend not to do so much anymore because ribbing already cinches things in a little bit, and I don't want it to, I'm not so into the kind of gathered rib look at the moment. I want the ribbing to kind of sit flat and be more like a finishing detail. So because I went down a needle size, I then picked up more stitches. I also, the pattern calls for Italian bind-offs. There are a few instances where I will do one of those. I have done them on projects previously. I've just done them on the Elizabeth blouse by Petite Knit. Okay, controversial opinion, because I know lots of people absolutely love the sewn bind-offs because there's that like infinity edge kind of situation. I sometimes find that looks a bit untidy, particularly as you start to wear the garment over time. Those stitches stretch out and there's not the structure to that hem that you want. And I kind of just don't like that there's not a clear finish. Yeah, that's just me. I prefer a far more definite edge. So I've changed the type of bind off to one that I just prefer. Hope you can see it there. I use it on loads of my projects. What else can I tell you? I am going to get my book out again. I have knit the 4th size in this. I was between 2 sizes, and I was right at the top of one and right at the bottom of another, and so I was really caught. But I've gone for the bigger size because I just think that's is more likely to look good, even if it doesn't look like 100% the way I pictured it. I think that's going to look better, particularly if you've got a blouse underneath. I don't want like any crinkles or folds in the blouse where I've like tucked it in to show. So I think going for the bigger size was the right call. I didn't think I was on gauge, and then for one part where I measured, she gives like either a number of rows or a measurement, which I always find really helpful. I didn't think I was on gauge, and then somehow I suddenly ended up on gauge, so I'm not quite sure how that happened. But yeah, the neckline looked quite small, I'm going to be honest, when I first did it. Sorry, there's sirens going past in the background. But I have tried it on and it does fit well. I was kind of trying to zoom down to the point where I'd have like a decent amount of knitting done on the front and the back to make sure I could just pull it over my head in a kind of tabard style. I have not tried it since I've now started working the body. I've worked probably a couple of inches on the body joined in the round. I really, really love this stitch and the structure to the fabric. It's really squishy. I also think it looks really professional looking. Just really polished. It's got a lovely double knit neckband, some really nice like increased details around the neck. So yeah, I think if this project had been in stockinette, I probably would have finished it already. It is slightly slower going because there is a lot of knitting flat to begin with lots of purling. But now that I'm on the body, I'm hoping to kind of zoom through it. And I'm also hoping to zoom through it because I want to get the other armhole done so that those needles are then free for me to pick this project back up. But yeah, nice little colour palette going on. Love it. I'm just trying to think. I haven't yet spoken about the yarn, which I know, but I'm just checking if there's anything else I should be talking about before I move on to that. I don't think so. 4mm needles, as I said, 3.5mm needles for the ribbing. I don't tend to go down for my ribbing, but I'm following the pattern on that one. I'm going to be cropping this one again. I think it's going to be really vital I get the crop on this right. So I think when I've done about 4 to 6 inches on the body, I will do a try on and figure out how much more I need to go, because these armholes are quite deep. They don't look it on her on the pattern, but these are right according to the measurements given. So I hope I don't end up with something that looks too drastically different to what she's got, noting that of course it will look different on my body because we have very different body shapes. But yeah, very nice knit, hopefully quite quick. If I can zoom through it over the next couple of days, that's going to make me really happy, and then I'll show you the outfit on the next podcast episode. The final bit then that I'm due to tell you is the yarn. The yarn is, I went to Tewkesbury in the Cotswolds a few weeks ago, and there is a little knitting shop there. Was really, really excited to go and see it. They do often sell some really nice local yarn. Unfortunately, they were pretty much out of stock of the one that I'd been eyeing up. But whilst I was there, I knew for this project that I wanted a yarn that had a very smooth finish. I wanted a yarn that was a kind of multi-ply yarn, not a 4, probably more like a 6 or 8 ply yarn. I actually wanted something quite commercial because I knew it would give this really kind of polished look, and it would give this kind of bouncy sponginess, and it would give me some drape. So those were the kind of properties I was looking for, and what I found was a yarn I've never used before ever. I've used the brand but not this base. This is probably going to be backwards on camera, but this is King Cole's Luxury Merino DK in the colourway Merlot, and it's 100% merino superwash yarn, 140 metres per 50 grams. What am I going to say about this yarn? The yarn has given exactly the finish that I wanted, so it ticks all the boxes that I thought it would. I can't quite show you on camera just how gorgeous this is in terms of the fabric it's created. So it's given me everything I wanted out of it. I would say in terms of a knitting experience, it's very splitty, and there are multiple joins in each ball, which is really common in commercial yarn. I've not seen it quite as bad as this. I don't know if I've got really unlucky with the random sample of balls I have from this batch. They've done quite a good job of almost like splicing the joins, but I just don't trust that spliced join, not because of them personally as a manufacturer, just I wouldn't feel comfortable knitting leaving that kind of join in place. So that's created quite a few knots and ends that I've had to weave in, where I've basically just knotted off the yarn myself each time to create a securer kind of join. But I think given the price point, so I bought this, and it may or may not, I don't know, vary in different places, the price point you can get this at, but I want to say it was about £5.50-ish a ball, something around there. If you're a stockist watching this, don't quote me, I haven't got the receipt in front of me. I've bought 6 balls. This so far is less than 3 used. I don't think I will use all 6. I think I've got enough of the 3rd ball to probably do most of this armhole, and then I'll probably break into the 4th to finish it. And then, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if I could do this in 4 or 5 balls of yarn. If I have a ball left over, I might make another version on bigger needles of this scarf and do it completely to pattern. And that might again be another nice gift knit. But yeah, I think in terms of, I know at one point on my podcast I promised I would refer more to pricing again, which overall, like, I am still wanting to do because I think it's really helpful to people. But on the flip side, I've been using a lot of my own hand-dyed yarn, which I could convert into a price like £8. I haven't priced up the Aran weight because that's not in my shop. But some of these yarns I'm bringing out of stash, they're like deep stash, or they're just not accessible in the UK. So I will be getting back to pricing. This, if I use all 6 balls, you guys do the maths, at kind of £5.50 a ball, you're looking at somewhere around like £33 to £35. If I only use kind of 4, then, you know, a lot less, like less than 25 quid for a slipover. And at the moment there are so many slipovers in the shops and they are like a lot of money. So I think we are reaching a point with where the fashion industry's at that we might actually be making garments that are higher quality for a more affordable price point by hand making them, which is amazing because for a while that was not the case. Anyway, I'm going to stop blathering. This is my next whip. Really happy with it. As I say, really hoping that with some blocking and actual wearing, this will sit better, the ribbing on the armholes, but generally speaking, really happy. Gosh, rambly. Right. No pun intended, I'm going to whip through some of my other whips, because I have been working on them, but there's just not masses to say, and I'll say when I'm at a kind of bigger juncture with them. I have done about 20 rows on another version of this pattern. I've picked like a much larger size because I've gone down to a 3mm needle, and I'm using a really thin yarn, which is the No Waste Wool from Knitting for Olive in the navy. It's super thin, like I'd say it's borderline lace weight, and it's really hard to see because I've got it bunched up on a needle, but I have done more on this. I've done a bigger funnel neck than this one, and I'm going to make this into a t-shirt version. So I actually also really want to be progressing this because I also really want to be wearing this, so I better get going. I have also got on my needles, and I actually didn't show this in the last episode, this is a 2nd or 3rd version of the Musselburgh hat, or Musselburgh hat. It's inside out at the moment. I've done this one colour blocked, I've used scraps, I've used some of my kid silk mohair that I picked up in Japan, held with a 2-ply jump weight yarn I had in stash. This middle section is Kinross 4-ply in their like evergreen foresty greeny blue colourway, held with some old Gepard Garn blue mohair, navy blue. Then this is the Kinross 4-ply in like a kind of, it's like a turquoisey blue colour, and I'm holding it with Cumulus by Fibre Spades, which is their Surrey Alpaca base in the sea green colourway. I'm knitting this on 3.5mm needles. I can't remember what combination, like what stitch count I've gone for, which I will need to re-jog my memory, but I think I'm probably like 60 to 70% the way knitted. This one looks enormous, it looks super wide, but because of how thick it is, I'm finding that you knit these to a lot bigger, words today, I'm finding that you knit them and they look enormous, but by the time you've pushed the 2 layers together and then you folded up the brim so it's quadruple layered, you actually need it to be quite big because there's not masses of stretch. I hope this is making sense, like because that's so much fabric, you don't want that squeezing on your head too tight. So they are looking bigger than most hats I knit. This one is also going to be gifted, provided it kind of looks the way I want it to when it's finished. So yeah, I hope, again, another one that in theory I should be able to finish ahead of the next episode. But then again, I've said that about so many bits, and that's an awful lot of knitting at a very busy time of the year. The last whip I'm going to show you, and again, this is another project that is so close to being done. This one has been on my needles for, no exaggeration, years. 2 years easily by this point. This is the George's sweater by Johanna Gehrich. She initially designed the pattern to wear at her wedding, over her wedding dress. I then wanted to knit some for my bridesmaids and chose this gorgeous combination of bottle and slate green yarns from Knitting for Olive. What happened with this? Well, yeah, no, that is correct. I used the Knitting for Olive fingering weight merino in bottle green, but for those who are long-term viewers of the podcast, you might remember there was this whole kerfuffle because the bottle green mohair is a very different shade. So I've actually ended up using the slate green, and that's kind of produced the colour I wanted. I knit this, I started this one, this was meant to be for bridesmaid number 1. I had 2 bridesmaids in total, and I think, was it the body length I got completely wrong, or I can't remember, something went completely wrong. And I just realised I was going to run out of time to make 2 of them, so I didn't. But I really want the jumper for myself, and I spent a lot of money on the yarn, so I really do want to finish it. But yes, I need to retry it on and make sure this shape of sleeve is exactly what I wanted. It was what I wanted when I picked this up earlier in 2025. But I've knit 1 sleeve and then I've cast on or picked up for the 2nd sleeve. So it is literally just stockinette in the round on 5mm needles. The whole thing's been knit on 5mm. It's a raglan with like an open back that is in a V, and then you tie it in a knot at your waist. So you kind of knit these like, that's my other modification. So I've knit little tails. On her version of the pattern, you knit the V straight and it just chops off, and then you cast on or pick up for these really big ties for this really like maximalist bow. And I wanted something a little bit tamer. I don't therefore know if these little ties that I've done are going to be enough. It probably will start pulling in the main fabric of the jumper. Let's just see. I think those I reknit, that was the issue. I reknit these several times because what I'd done I just didn't think would work. I'm still a bit conscious that the back is probably going to gape a bit with the way that I've done it. So I might end up needing to pick up for another set of ties. Like I almost might need like 2 ties. Let's see. This is the problem with modifying. Stuff goes wrong. But anyway, I'm going to try this on again, double, triple check I like the fit of this sleeve because it's basically got no decreases, as you can see. And then once I knit the 2nd sleeve, the sleeves are finished with an I-cord, and then you have to go the whole way round all edges, like these sides, the bottom, these tabs, all the way along the neckline, down the side, all of it's I-cord. Which I think is the other thing putting me off slightly. I knew it when I cast it on. But hey. So anyway, this has been languishing for a while, but I will get back to that. That's another one that would not take long to finish and hopefully could look really, really good in my autumn wardrobe if I can just get it done. Hey. So, in terms of where that leaves us, I've obviously got gazillions of whips. We're beginning to move through them. I'm really enjoying knitting from my stash and knitting some yarns that I've kind of kept as like for special, and actually I'm like just enjoy them, and that's been really good. I'm getting back onto keeping all my knitting notes. This is just a little leather bound multi-notebook holder thing with a little pocket for all my ball bands. And I've been picking up some of my knitting books. I've been obviously trawling through Ravelry, but actually really enjoying picking up physical hard copies and going through and putting some tabs in. So I have got a number of the 52 Weeks of Scarves by Liner Publishing. I've got a number of their shawls and scarves on my radar. So I will quickly show you a couple of them without hopefully showing you too much of the instructions. So I really want to cast this on. This is called Wild Flowers, and it's by Katya Gorbacheva. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's a gorgeous wrap that's knit end to end horizontally rather than moving up it vertically, and it's got these just gorgeous flower motifs in cabled and stitched textures on a background of pearls. I just think it's stunning. But that would probably be either a gift knit or a kind of sample knit. It probably wouldn't be something that I would wear, but that's okay. I like having some of these things that are more for the visual enjoyment rather than for my wardrobe necessarily. There's also a pattern called Stairway by Suzanne Summer, and again just try and show you the picture only. I thought that was really graphic and really cool. That's in a fingering weight yarn, and what I really like is that the Liner Publishing have given you the yarn that the designers use, but then they've said, okay, if you're not using that and you want to use other bases, this is how much you're going to need. And I really value that. I think that's really, really good. Because they've kind of put the yarn used in terms of balls. So they said like 5 balls of this and 2 balls of that, but obviously if you're substituting, they've kind of skipped out that research step where you have to try and figure out, well, what does that actually mean in terms of yardage, etc. There is another really lovely scarf, although the photography is beautiful, but I don't feel you can really tell what's going on in the picture properly, so I'm intrigued. But this is by Maria Matviva. Again, please excuse my awful nails. I've knit a few scarves from this book already. Some are still in whip format, some have been gifted, some I wear. But I would really recommend, it was a book where I definitely had like a large percentage of the book that I actually wanted to knit. I want to show you just one more. This I thought was really interesting. I'm going to probably butcher this name, but it's called Ruskaunoki by Sarah Heyman. I just thought that was really gorgeous. Really photographic, like photogenic in the kind of blue and yellow, but I'll probably have a look at another colour combination. But yes, lots of knitting inspo from this book at the moment, I think, particularly whilst I'm thinking about gift knitting and using my stash. The other thing on my radar, aside from all the projects I've shown you, I have some sweater weight quantities in my stash that are very much intended for specific sweaters, so I need to get going with that, as well as all my other whips. But something else that's giving me huge inspo at the moment, I don't know if the glass is going to kind of gleam and block your sight of this, but I've got this glass jar of several different grey 2-ply jumper weight yarns from various brands, and then some scraps of some blues, some oranges, some pinks, and there's like a dark red in there. And I've just really enjoyed having that colour combination together in a jar. It's not showing up very well on camera, but it's got like a really beautiful, it just visually, I'm finding it very stimulating. And I would really like to knit a double thickness cowl for myself, just a single loop one. I've knit loads of these for other people over the years. I've been terrible at photographing them before I gift them, so there's not many on my Insta, but I've never made me one. So I'm gonna have a go at doing that, hopefully over the coming months. So I think that is everything from me. I feel like I've kind of whipped through stuff. no pun intended. I feel like my words have not come easily today, so sorry if some of this from the editing etc is a little bit stilted, but some really good progress on some knitting projects. Really excited to have some of these in my wardrobe, and they really do feel like they're building up, particularly with some of the other whips that I have, really building up to like fill gaps in my wardrobe, and I'm really beginning to think about like my hand knit wardrobe as outfits. So that's really, really exciting. Really feels good to be in a gift knitting mode as well. I have historically been more a selfish knitter, which I've never felt bad about, and I don't think anyone should feel bad about. But I'm kind of latching on to the fact I'm in a gift knitting mode at the moment, because quite often I use knitting as a way of like expressing my love for people, and often, unfortunately, it kind of slightly feels like it ends up feeling like a chore, because I get super excited, cast stuff on, and then I lose mojo with it and I have to force myself to get it finished for a certain time. So I'm really leaning into just being really in the mode of gift knitting. It feels really good. I'm going to leave it there. Hopefully you've got some ideas about what will be coming up. I will do like an autumn knitting plans video if I can. We're already kind of in autumn, that's the only thing, but I will do one. I've got loads in the tank that I want to do. Loads on the list. So with that, I'm going to stop blathering. Not masses to update you on life-wise since the last video. If you're interested in that, it's right at the end of the previous video. There is going to be bits and bobs going up into work.knits yarn. Shipping at the moment to the US is still problematic. I'm afraid that changed since I recorded my last video. And likewise, shipping into Europe is still quite challenging, and I'm still trying to figure out how other people have managed that whole situation. So it's quite UK centric. If you live outside of either the US or Europe and the United Kingdom and you'd like shipping, do just reach out and we can sort something out on a kind of bespoke basis. But yes, for now, that's where we're up to, everybody. I hope September's bringing you joy. You're enjoying the autumn vibes if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, getting ready for summer if you are elsewhere, and I will see you very, very soon. Bye!